This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio.
I said listen up, children.
On Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music. Guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world. Our next guest on Femme House Radio is producer, vocalist, songwriter, and classically trained pianist Elohim. Her music is electronic and indie and pop because no box can contain her, and her one-woman live show doubles down on that. She has tracks with Louis the Child, Skrillex, and Marshmello, and she is an artist who deeply cares about mental health and helping other people with their mental health. Hello, Elohim.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great as well. It's been so lovely to meet you, actually.
You too.
Thank you.
I think your fans are so beautiful and so rabid because you are so open and honest with them, especially when it comes to mental health. Why is this topic so near and dear to you?
So I've suffered from panic and dissociation and anxiety since I was 7 years old. And it's been something for my entire life that I felt completely alone in. You know, my parents didn't understand. They were very much with the holistic approach, and no, I don't blame them at all for this. I think that they just didn't know what was going on, or maybe didn't even realize how severe it was. And then when I was able to choose to go to therapy and pinpoint, what was going on with me, that was really life-changing for me. And then I put out a song called Xanax. It was the second song I ever put out, and I didn't know if people were going to think I was crazy for putting, this song out, or if anybody would even hear it. And that was when the real listeners, who a lot of them I still have in my life to this day, that was when they started to reach out and, say, I didn't know anybody else felt this way. I never ever have known anybody that felt this way. And on the flip side, I didn't know anybody that felt this way. So, it kind of inspired me to continue writing and continue, speaking about it and keeping that message alive, because I realize there are so many people struggling. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. You are present and you are grounded and you are part of something even greater than yourself that you have made. So that is really special and beautiful. So where are you right now?
I am sort of outskirts of Los Angeles. It's LA County, but it's I live in a cabin from the 20s, and I'm in nature, so it doesn't feel like LA.
You're in a cabin?
Yeah. Wait, I can show you.
I love this.
So, this is my gallery wall, which I did during quarantine.
That is beautiful.
Thank you. Then this part kind of looks cabin-y.
Oh my
it's
God,
really,
this is
really awesome.
Wait,
this part is all windows. Yeah, it's pretty magical, especially it just, it's during quarantine, it's been a lifesaver to I don't know, going into the city now, especially, it used to do this to me too, but now driving into Hollywood or whatever, I never do, but if I have to, it's my heart's just beating a little faster.
You know what is crazy that you say that? So I used to live in LA. In
in
Mid City, in it, yeah, a little bit west of downtown. Actually, I lived in Venice, and then I lived in Playa del Rey, and then I lived in Mid City, and whatever. And I felt I'm from Oregon, which I say Oregon. That to say, my parents are hippies. My roots are
Same.
I'll move to LA. It won't affect me. I am who I am. Strong values and moral compass. And we just moved to Austin, Texas, in the pandemic.
Oh,
and
wow.
I can't believe I didn't even know how much it was affecting me.
Wow.
Don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of great parts of LA and a lot of beautiful humans who move there, and a lot of creatives, and there's so much cool stuff that can come from that. But there's also this like pervasive anxiety and like ladder climbing energy and like,
Oh
how
my
can
God,
you help
yeah.
me? And like, I went home to see my parents recently, and we went to a dinner with some of their friends, and it was like a 3-hour dinner. Nobody's on their phones, and not once did anybody talk about what they did for their career.
The best thing ever. It's so funny because like people who aren't from, even just not from the United States, but specifically LA, it's like actually kind of considered rude to ask, you know, oh, what do you do? But it's such a it's like so common here to ask that.
Totally. And like, also, it's not even like, I feel like it's not even so much even a rude thing, but it's like nobody cares. Like, I don't really care so much what you do, but who are you as a human? And like, are you an interesting person? What books have you read? What, you know? And it just was like, so when I went to this dinner and, you know, nobody talked about what they did or who they know or whatever, it was alarming to me. And the fact that it was alarming to me was alarming.
Concerning, yeah.
I was like, I need to get the fuck out of LA. Like, this is not where it's just, my soul was slowly dying there. So it's so cool I didn't even know there was like an outskirts of LA. Like,
well, that's the weird thing is a lot of people don't. I grew up here, so.
I'm obsessed with creative couples.
Oh!
So, like, I used to literally go on a website called creativecouples.com. This is, like, when I was single.
Stop!
Like, and I, like, was working, like, a normal job, and I would just, like, be creepy on this website watching and, like, learning about these. Because this is what I always thought. Like, you have 8 hours a day, you know, that are, like, good, solid hours where your brain is, like, firing, where you're, like, you know, your best self. And then you go home, and you're tired. You're a little bit spent. You're maybe just, like, want to relax. You're not the best version of you anymore. And that's when you see your partner. It's like, fuck that.
Yeah, yeah. So I've never actually publicly said that we were dating. So here it is, we're dating. But it's been 6 years.
Is that okay? Do you want me to delete this part?
No, it's been 6 years. I don't care. I'm so far. So for a long time, we would do full tours and nobody knew. So you heard it here first. It's been 6 years.
Wait, did Femme House just become like the coolest breaking news place ever? This is hello. Like,
he's gonna be like, what did you do? Yeah, I guess
because
cat's out of the
bag. I literally I was chatting with Tucker of Sophie Tucker, and I said, you know, like, I know that you guys are friends. Like, any interesting talking points? And he's like, oh, her partner's really cool, and does her visuals, and so amazing. I didn't. That's amazing. Wait, how did you go on a tour and know?
We did multiple tours. It was so funny because people would be like, you know, like we'd be like, oh, it's okay, just book our rooms together. You know, if it was like a new tour manager or something that didn't know yet, usually the tour manager would end up, you know, knowing. Yeah. But at the beginning, we were like so quiet about it because, you know, I was new in being Elohim and he was brand new and like being in music, and you know, there's so much bullshit around it, and like people use it against you, or like, oh, you're only using him because of this. And you know, I wanted us to both sort of like establish ourselves and then, you know, be able to, you know, talk about it. And it's really interesting. It's been 6 years, which is crazy. So in 6 years, I've never publicly said that. But yeah, so we would do full tours. Like we were very, very secure in our relationship that it was like, when I'm doing a show still, I mean, we always laugh about it because like if I'm about to go on stage and I've suffered from like severe debilitating anxiety, and like that going on stage was really, really, really hard for me. And so I had to like come up with these things to help myself. But so like still to this day, like he'll come in the green room and be like, I love you, like have an amazing show. I'm like, okay, bye, get out of my room. But he's so confident and in the relationship, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's almost like when we're in work mode, it's like that stuff is, you know, turned off. We're both very, very serious about, you know, what we do. And, you know, having this like best friend that's in your life is just an added bonus. And that's how I think relationships should be. You know, it should add joy and love and comfort to your life, not discomfort and, you know, conflict and lack of communication and stuff. So it's been really easy, kind of.
God, that is amazing. I think it's really cool to be with a partner who I know there's pros and cons to this, but who like really knows what it's like and can understand what being on the road looks like. And I can imagine that would be a really big support system.
That was so much better too, because then, he started touring with A$AP Rocky and like going on these like big tours, and it's just like we just have this bond and this connection and constant communication, and it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. So I feel really, really, really lucky. And I see other people who, if there's like a dude on the road with me and they've got somebody at home, and it can be interesting, and you're always like, oh gosh, they're like over there on the phone, and it's really nice to be able to go on tour and just like submerge into it and just like be there, because I don't know, having any extra bullshit is just, I can't deal with it. Like, I don't have the brain power or capacity to deal with that, because it's already hard being an artist, so.
Dude,
yeah.
I remember one day I was on Soph and Tuck's tour bus, and we were driving, I don't know, we were in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, and I look out the window and there was somebody walking their dog, and this happens to me often, when you're like, look out the window and you see somebody walking their dog, and it just blows my mind, you're like it's like you're getting getting a glimpse into like an alternate reality,
so
and you're like,
weird.
well, the life that I'm living is so, and so sometimes I have to remember, like, when I call my partner when I'm on tour, like, the reality he's living is the dog walking your dog reality,
Yeah.
And this is like, and how do you, and my partner is in the music industry, but he's on like sort of the industry side, not the touring side, and so at least like he can get it to a certain point, but it's so weird I think that would be so awesome to have somebody who just gets it right away.
Yeah, it is really. Also for me, like, something else that's, something that I've suffered with is dissociation, and that's kind of what will trigger my, like, anxiety and panic attacks. And one of the things on the road, actually, it's funny that you say that, because I sort of have a bit of a rule where, like, I won't see people outside of my touring party. Of course, meet and greets, I had to kind of get over that. But it's still, I'm still in the tour mode while doing meet and greets. But like seeing, extended family or friends can be really, really difficult when you're on the road, because, and especially, for me, and it is for everybody, but, when you add like dissociation on top of that, it's like, it's that feeling of like, whoa, what is happening? Like, there's just these random people like there's a family right there having lunch. Like, what? This is so not my life right now. And people don't understand it, and they want to talk about it. It's like the last thing you want to talk about is what you've been doing on tour. So, like, I really, like, I don't talk to my family much when I'm on the road, and I'm extremely too close with my family. I see them all the time, talk all the time. But when I'm on the road, I have to like, turn off my personal life, or mentally I can't handle being on the road.
Wait, this is so, okay, so how do you get out of this problem? I feel like every city I go to, like, my, like, high school friend's friend will, like, hit me. I'd be like, I saw you're coming to town, like, would love to come to the show. And so I almost feel like I see my family and friends exponentially more, because, like, every city you go to, like, they want to come and it's their party night, and they want to have that whole, so how do you get around that?
Well, it's really strange, because also, I always say, imagine I was, going to visit you in your office and, like, was like, let's hang out, tell me about your work. Like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm like, you have to understand, this is our job. We don't have an office job. This is our job, and it's even more exhausting than an office job, And like, it's just completely different, because it takes all of you, and it doesn't stop. Like, when you're on the road, it's 24/7, even on your days off. It's like, it doesn't stop. And so I realized that it was really triggering for me to see people, and so I would just not. And maybe if I was going to, it'd have to be on a day off. But if it's not a day off, I just say, like, I'm just way too busy doing stuff. I personally, I've seen people who, like, go out and see all these people and, like, invite all these people, and I personally mentally can't handle it, because it just throws me off. And I've had some really bad experiences where I was like, oh, I'm fine, I'm gonna go see this friend during the day, and then go to sound check, and it just, like, would send me into, like, panic dissociation kind of feeling. So I realized, like, I just can't do that unless it's like a full day off or like a couple days off. So yeah,
I'm so impressed with you for having boundaries like that. and setting
It
those and
it definitely took learning them, and like before shows, like I won't see anyone, and I always feel like an asshole, but it's like I have to do this, or like I'll be throwing up and like having a full-on panic attack, you know. And it was like because I went through it, and then I was like, wait, what's triggering me is like being around people and like having to like be on when I'm trying to get ready to, you know, go on stage.
Oh my God. Actually, you know what's crazy is I'm so thankful that we're having this conversation, because I find myself battling like before like the pre-hang to the show. I'm like, I feel nervous. Like I guess I'm feeling nerves in my stomach, whatever. And this like, and then the added pressure of like the hang. And sometimes I've never had a word for that. Or like, I also thought like, you just have to suck it up. But it's been hard. So it's inspiring to see you set boundaries around that.
Yeah. And like, for me, it's embarrassing too. So it like sends me more if I'm like, you know, starting to feel that or something, and people are around me, like I don't want people to ever see me go through that, because it's really hard for other people as well. I actually just had my first show in over a year, like a month ago. Congrats. I did Park and Rave, and it was awesome. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna react. It's been over a year, and I had to work very, very, very hard, and I'm on medication. And I woke up that day, and I was feeling great, and I was like, oh, amazing. And you know, and I didn't know what to expect. Kind of, I show up, it's this huge festival stage, festival production, everything, so it was like a full-on show, and I was fine all day. And then an hour and a half before the show, there was like a few maybe like 6 people in my green room, and I just started dissociating. Like it was just so, it's hard to explain dissociation, but I always say it's kind of like when you're when you're watching a movie and sort of the person like starts to, if they're on like a bad drug trip or something, and the POV is from the person tripping, and you know, everything just kind of like starts to shrink down and like feel weird, and I go into like, all of a sudden I feel like I'm like this child. It's really strange. That's kind of like lost in this place with these people. I'm like, who are these people? So anyway, and I know what that means. That just means, I think it's a like fight thing for your body, like a fight or flight kind of thing, where your brain is almost trying to protect you or something. So anyway, I know what's about to come after that, especially when I have to go on stage. And so then I thought like, oh my God, I have to go on stage in front of people. This is insane, you know? All of a sudden it's like, I'm not in my house anymore for the last year. So then it just hit me like a bag of bricks, and I was like, everyone get out of my green room. And they got out, and I ended up throwing up actually, and I hadn't thrown up before a show in a while, but I threw up twice, and then once I was done throwing up, I was like, all right, let's go, I'm good, like, and I snapped out of it. But it's very strange for people to see that.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That's like,
You're so
and
welcome.
I touch on this later, but like I think that your openness is why you have such rabid, amazing fans. And I think that is really awesome. I my last thought before I walk on stage every time, I played my first festival back in, a few weeks ago in Dallas. And right before I was walking on, I was like, oh, whoa, I haven't had this thought in so long, because it's been so long. But as I was walking on, I remember thinking, is this considered insanity to decide to go put yourself in the, you know, in the judgment's way of all these people, like to decide that you're going to go do this thing that like feels so scary and so overwhelming? Like, is this insanity? Like, is this insane that I'm signing up to do this, that I'm actually like working really hard to try to keep doing it? Like, is this insanity? That's always my last thought before I start.
Oh my God.
And so
That's
to hear
amazing.
that, you know, and I see like touring with Soph and Tuck a lot, you know, they're you should see their pre-show. It's remarkable. They're doing a workout. They're doing squats. They're like doing jumping jacks. They're like high-fiving. They're screaming. They're joyous. They're excited. You know, it's like, and I'm just like, let me just get through this. Let me just get through this. I'm almost through this. I'm almost through the hard part. You know, like once I get up there, like it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's intense.
It's really intense. And it can, early days when I was, you know, opening for a lot of people, and I was so new, and I would like, you know, throw up before every show. I was so embarrassed because it seemed like everybody was fine before their shows, you know, and I was like, why is it just me? But it's not. Like, there are so many people who go through that and who get super, super nervous before going on stage. Allison Wonderland's one of my closest friends, and we were able to kind of bond over that, because I even toured with her and I didn't realize, but she would get really like, you just couldn't find her before a show, and I realized like, oh, she has to like be alone before a show as well. It's also really different when you have, well, I would imagine it's very different when you have like a band or other people on stage with you, because then it's this, because I did these acoustic, like reimagined shows at the cemetery here, and I did 3 nights, and it was all of my music, which is all electronic basically. I did it all me and a grand piano and 4 string players, and it was the feeling going on stage was so different. I of course like had nerves, but they weren't, it just wasn't the same at all. And
really?
It's interesting because these string players were the most badass string players you can find. And I remember them saying to me, like, Elle, don't worry, you know, whatever happens, like, we have your back. So, like, I knew, worst case, if I had to run off stage or, like, if something got messed up, they would just, like, play through it. And so there's something definitely about being alone on stage that's, like, a one-woman show.
I think about that all the time, too.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to see a band, I think, whoa, to share that anxiety and excitement and all the things, you know, I mean, I am pretty like anal retentive and controlling, so being you know, having final say in everything I do is nice.
Yeah, I know.
But
same.
But share that part. So knowing that you go through all of this, which makes me feel less alone and comforted, and wow, I feel really grateful for that. Like that's crazy how, because I've only, the people I have toured with, all seemed fine, and I have thought like, is there something wrong with me? And so I just fake it until I get on stage, which is like, ugh. Anyway, so thank you. But knowing all this, what makes you keep doing it?
I guess I don't want to let my mental health and these struggles stop it. And my mom, before I go on stage, she always like will text me and say, just, you know, share love and share light. And I know that the music and the experience of the show, when shows are happening, were really special for the audience. And, you know, I mean, it's those, it gives me chills, but those moments.
I'm over here tearing up. Seriously.
Those moments. I mean, on the tour that I was on, it was called the Group Therapy Tour. It was kind of my first, like, full, proper headlining tour and I only got to do like 6 of the shows, and it was canceled. And that was devastating because the meet and greets and everything, it was this, you know, this community coming together, and I would be crying, my crew would be crying, like during these meet and greets, because we would all just talk about these things. And, you know, I felt so alone for all of my life, and nobody understood what I was going through. And it wasn't until the last few years when I, you know, became close with all these people that I met through just messaging on Instagram and, you know, this community and doing shows and meet and greets and meeting the same people, and then they became friends. So it's like we all have this community, which is awesome. And for the first time in my entire life, I feel so much less alone. There's this, you know, there's these people that I can talk to that actually have gone through what I go through, who like potentially can have it worse, like can't leave the house without throwing up, you know, or like going to a job interview. And so it's, you know, these everyday things. And it's interesting how you were talking about Los Angeles and how it's, you know, all these sort of like status climbing sort of, you know, what do you do type of people. And I've had that experience too, so much in the music industry, and it doesn't interest me. And then the people who are so interesting to me are the people that I've met on the road and through just messaging, because these people live real lives and feel real feelings, and they're not trying to cover up anything, you know, and that's why I, you know, take the time, because it's like I love to do it, because not only does it help them, it helps me so much. So yeah.
Oh, what's so cool about that is that everybody tells you to, you know, I mean, I've been told a few times, you know, to like by people I respect who are in this industry, like the more authentic you can become and the more you can figure out who you are, that's when your career will start working. So it's so cool that you are like, you know, these are the things that I work on. These are the challenges I have. I'm going to just be completely open with that. And so obviously, like, this community that you've created is very real. And these fans that you have are very real. And it, you know, they show up and they buy tickets, and it's really cool to see that's true. you being authentically you has actually created the scene that you now exist in, which is...
Yeah, it was crazy on that tour, too. There were a couple of nights where people working at the venue would come up to me, hey, sorry to bother you. I just want to say, like, I've never seen anything like this. It was really beautiful to, like, watch your meet and greet and just see how kind everybody was, not only like towards me, but towards each other and towards the venue and the people working at the venue. So, it's like, those are the people I want to be around, these really non-judgmental, loving, real, honest people who have also, gone through similar things that I've gone through. And I would say we all came from a womb at one point, and we are all just human beings. So I get really bummed out, and I don't really associate or talk with much people in the music industry because it just, I don't know.
I feel you. It becomes a game, and it does feel like a game more than why we're doing this. It's so you touched on joy, that kind of has helped you, a reason that you keep going. And I had this huge awakening moment. I think that a lot of my anxiety before going on stage comes from my wanting to be perfect and wanting to be seen as perfect, and worried that the world will fall apart if that's not the case. Lol. So I was playing a show in Portland, and all of my family and friends from Oregon, all of them were gonna be there. And I was so unbelievably nervous, and I was like, this isn't even enjoyable. This is not how I want to live my life. What is the point of this? If the entire day of, I feel sick, I feel almost debilitated. Oh man. And I walked up on stage, and the first thing I did was make a mistake.
Aww.
It's the very first thing that happened. And I thought, this is the moment I'm going to just fall apart and die. And I looked out in the audience, and I made such a big mistake, all the music stopped. It was like a screeching, it was like a dream.
No.
It was
catastrophic mistake.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Catastrophic mistake. And I looked out in the audience, and I saw my parents, and they were standing next to their best friends. And I wanted them to be proud, and they were standing next to their best friends who also sort of helped raise me. Aww. And I see them out there, and I could see that they were seeing me as like a little child, that they were seeing me as like the little girl that I was a joyous, free, tiny human. And I could see that that's what they saw in me. And then I realized people don't care if I make a mistake. People don't even care if the music stops. So, if I hit play again, it's fine.
Yeah.
What they want from me is to be present and to share my joy.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can do that. I know, I might make a mistake. I might play a wrong note or whatever, but I can do that part of it. And
so
I mean, even though I still have debilitation sometimes, I try to recall that moment. And so I really respect that. And it sounds like you are really able to tap in, why are we really here? And that helps you overcome all of that. And that's so beautiful to me.
Yeah, you do have to look at that. There's been times where, because usually that last show that I just did, I was saying I puked twice, and then I was like, all right, go time. And I was so psyched and not anxious anymore. I was just pumped and feeling badass. Which is, it's almost like you have to, for me, I guess I have to get out of my personal life and almost transform into, this woman that I want to be. And so much of, it's weird, so much of the anxiety and stuff, it takes me to mommy, I want my mommy, stuff like that. It's just weird. And so I have to sort of transform into this woman, and that's part of why I want to be alone before shows too. And I suggest maybe try doing that, because that has, that's, and really just centering yourself and focusing.
I love this. Because I feel like I want to be cool. I want to just I want it to seem to people I'm fine. It doesn't matter. It's whatever to me. But it doesn't feel that way. I don't feel like whatever.
Yeah. I know. It feels, I get so embarrassed. Because then I'll get off stage. I'm like, wow, I just had anxiety for 2 days and was throwing up. And then it was a blip. No one fucking cares.
That's exactly. Yeah. But actually, I mean, especially for you and what you're building, it sounds like people do care, but actually what they care about is not if it's good or bad. It's just you being there and them getting to experience that. I just interviewed my mom for the last show, because it was Mother's Day, and she told, she had some really awesome perspective. Actually, it was wild to get to really ask her questions about her musical, why she enjoys music and why live music is important to her. And And she was like, I think that, because there was a time in my life I was studying female empowerment in college, and I thought,
cool.
Hey, thanks. Is making music like enough, like I'm not changing the world. Like this feels like a selfish endeavor.
Yeah.
My mom was actually the one who was like, hey, this is really important stuff. Like me and your father followed the Grateful Dead around. We went to shows. It was my escape from like working my shitty job at the time. Those are the things that kept me going as a human. Like this is not frivolous.
Yeah.
And it is really cool to hold space. And like when I feel nervous, I'm like, is this insanity that I do this? I think about like there's something bigger here than me. And then remembering that it's bigger than me is in and of itself helpful,
Yeah. It's so true.
Really cool.
And like I try to remember, think of yourself as a music fan, going to see your favorite act, like you don't give a shit if they mess up. Like it's almost cooler if you like see some real shit happen, And like you're just so happy to like hear a song and be there. So I try to like think of it from, as a music fan too,
Totally.
What does it feel like to go to a show? But of course, it's like when it's you feel you're the center of your own world, So it's like you're the center of your being. So it's like putting yourself out there like that. It is kind of insane.
It's kind of we all just want to be liked and accepted, and it's like you have the opportunity to see people walking away from your set when you're playing a festival, and you're like, like I have to find like self-worth.
It's more, I know, but it is, you have to remember that it's not for people in the industry. It's for the actual, like, fans of your music who you're, changing their lives. And that's what's kept me going, meeting people and reading messages that are like, this song got me through this, or, your message and your music has saved me. I don't know. I was in New York, and this girl, Vicky, and her mom were at the meet and greet, and, it was great. Everyone in the room was crying because the mom, I basically in the meet and greet was like, here's a microphone. If anybody wants to talk about whatever you want to talk about, this is for you. Like, it's not for me, it's for you. This is your time with me. We have an hour, whatever you want to do. And so, and it became really special. Like I had somebody come out as transgender, which was like so incredible. Everyone was crying at that show, and it just kind of became this way. But anyway, in New York, this girl Vicky, her mom, started crying, was on the mic, and was like, I don't know, if it wasn't for your music, like I don't know if my daughter would still be here. And then I was sobbing on stage, and everybody, there wasn't a dry eye in the whole place. And it's those moments, and then it's like, you're so cute. I love you.
I'm crying again. This is so. I was a fan. I'm a fan, and this is. It's like a whole other level of like this. You are important.
Thank you. It's hard to. No, I'm getting emotional. It's hard to. Sometimes it is hard to keep going though, because you see like your peers and everything. The numbers around everything, and it does become, because putting out music, you're like, okay, I want a song that's gonna be like a huge song, whatever. But I really recently, especially, and I would say even over the last year, just realized more and more kind of the purpose of doing this. And like, maybe the purpose wasn't to like have a huge song and make all this money and like do all these things and have all these like crazy numbers, but the purpose was to reach these people who like. So I have so many people in my life that I'm like, if it wasn't for doing music, I wouldn't know any of these people, and that is so wild to me.
Dude, I had this is what I have these conversations with Sophie, and we call it salt of the earth moments.
Aww.
It's like, there's like when a song streams well, or when it gets picked up by whatever. Yeah. And then there's salt of the earth moments, which is when you meet somebody and you have a connection. You meet somebody at a show that you might not ever meet otherwise, and you have a connection with them, like a real human to human connection, which is truly why we are on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, it's crazy how it's hard to maintain that perspective, but like that's actually why we're here.
Yeah. It's so that human connection and feeling love and feeling joy, and that's why we do it. Like, I'm still probably gonna get so nervous before my next show, but but still,
maybe I'll shoot you a text.
Yeah,
like having some
you
nerves
always.
Right now.
I'll give
really
you my
cool
number. You can literally always text me. before show, anytime if you're ever feeling weird or just want to talk, like I love having human connection, because it just makes it less difficult if you're not going through it alone, and not only not alone, but people who actually understand what you're going through. That's been a life changer for me, and just like dealing with, my anxiety. There was a couple times on tour where I was on this last year, I would just like feel a little weird or whatever, and I'd walk on stage and I would see, I'd see a couple of people who I would see at shows all the time, and just seeing their smile and them cheering me on, I was like, okay, this is awesome. And it would just take it all away, and just learning to let go, I guess, too. Those are the best shows ever.
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 I was told so many times that you were awesome and that I was going to love you, but your authenticity is so grounding.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I can't tell you enough how nice it is to, meet somebody who is really extremely successful in this space, and to hear your perspective on all this is like, it's just wild to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's
for
one of those.
being
I'm
so
having one
nice.
of those like, this is an awesome job. There's days where I'm like, you're insane, and then this is a day where I'm like, hey, I'm so grateful
it all makes sense for a minute.
Yeah, for a minute. Yes, I'll take
That's
it.
the thing. If we didn't do this, like, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and this is, such a real human conversation. It's like, these are the things that I enjoy talking about, and which is why I choose not to live in the city of LA, and like, just kind of do my own thing, and why, working with Chase has been so amazing, because I feel very protected and safe, and not judged, which is like the best feeling ever.
You deserve that. That is really,
Thank
really
you.
awesome. I think that's so beautiful. So you are a classical piano player, and I have a background in classical and jazz piano as well. Ooh. And my journey into making electronic/dance music was quite the ride. How did you find your way into electronic music?
So since I was little, I was kind of the bad student, but I was always, practicing because my parents pushed me so hard. So I could shred on piano and play these Chopin pieces, but it was, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was something that I felt I was kind of forced into doing. And, I would sit at the piano and cry and kick the piano, and I would be the one kid.
Amazing.
I'd be the one kid at like the competitions or the recitals, and everyone would be in, these pink frilly dresses, and I would have, like black gloves with skulls on them, and just
queen.
I never wanted to wear, those things, and I knew I didn't belong there. And so, on my own time, I would sit at the piano and just write little songs and chords. And so it really started with songwriting, and singing, and I think what made me start doing electronic music was, I think a family friend had showed me Radiohead, and I was like, oh my gosh, these sounds. And Kid A was the album that they showed me, and I was like, oh my gosh, these sounds, like, it's so cool that you can make, intelligent music that's also digestible, but also sounds to this, and is also really emotional, and you can put on a live show and have that all be together. So I got a computer, and on GarageBand would just like sample myself and make weird songs. So that was kind of how, I guess. And then it just, it's forever evolving, and I feel like I ended up in the electronic world. I think it's a beautiful world, and the fans at these festivals and stuff, they're so open to music and all types of music, because, some of my music isn't straight ahead electronic music, but it lives in that world, which is really cool. And it seems like a world where, you go play at a festival and it's all about love, which is, that's all I want is love.
That's all anybody wants.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, what I love about your music is that there is no box that can contain your creations. You really do live outside of one genre. You're not beholden to one genre, and I love that. Your latest release, for example, gives no fucks, and I'm here for it. Tell us how your track Strut with Big Frida came to be.
So actually, I was sitting I have a really lovely studio that I work out of, and we've all become just a family. And there's an artist that works out of there sometimes called Denim, and he is also a writer and producer. And I was eating lunch, and I was in the middle of another session. I was like eating lunch by myself, and then he walks out of a room, and he's like, in an accent, he was like, "Fuck the sidewalk, it's a runway." And I was like, and I turned, I was like, "What is that?" And he was like, I was just like fucking around, I made it up. And I was like, can I have it? And he was like, yeah, of course. So then we just like finished writing it and made it. And then we ended up adding Big Frida to it. Yeah, so it was really like that moment. I was just sitting in a studio like eating lunch, and I was like, oh, what was that?
You truly never know where inspiration is going to come from. And good for you for being ready for it. Because that sounds like something you can easily dismiss and giggle at and move on. And I love that you made a track out of it.
Yeah, I know, right? And he was just like, it's just a silly idea that like he didn't think anything of it. And I was like, I'm obsessed with that. I need it. And he was like, it's yours, you know, do whatever. So we made the track and the song.
And you didn't just do whatever. You did a lot with it.
Yeah.
I love that track.
A lot of times, sometimes the music I make totally by myself. And then other times it's, you know, it goes through our whole sort of squad of people, which is really, I think, exciting and fun. I love collaborating with, you know, people that I love.
Same.
So,
absolutely
yeah.
Same. So this last question is a little bit more heady. Okay. But what advice would you give your younger self?
It's interesting. It's an interesting question because I often go to my younger self for advice. I feel like I'm going to cry.
That's already the best answer I've heard, so continue.
I feel like I'm going to cry. I tell people this a lot. So when I'm suffering from anxiety and things like that, and I was telling you, it sort of feels like I'm going into this like, you know, childlike thing, or if I get down on myself, and I've told this to people before, go to your 5-year-old self. She would love me. She would want me to hold her, and like she would think I was so pretty and so cool and so talented, and that's the most like, you know, you're so carefree when you're that young, and you have to think of yourself now like she would be so proud of you. I'm crying. Why are you doing this to me?
I am so in love with you. I feel the exact same way as your younger self. That is so beautiful and so true. I had a therapist recently tell me, I was in a therapy session. She stopped me and she said, would you ever talk to your younger child that way? If you had a daughter who was 5, would you ever let her hear the things that you're thinking? No, I wouldn't.
Never. And she would adore you, you know?
Yes.
Adore you and think you were just the most beautiful, coolest, best talented person.
That perspective.
So I flipped that one. What are you doing to me?
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a guest on Femme House Radio.
You.
Thank you for inspiring me in a whole other level that I didn't even know was possible. You are remarkable. I was already a fan, but now I just see how important you are in the world. So thank you.
I appreciate you saying that.
This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio.
I said listen up, children.
On Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world.